All right, hello everybody. Today we're going to keep reading Evelyn Underhill's book, Mysticism, the study of the nature and development of spiritual consciousness. So how you develop your spiritual consciousness, how you we are souls in a body, and so she's describing different people on this path of mysticism, which all of us are in one degree or another. So we might as well wake up to it. That's what I think, right? And so here I'll show you the ocean. Let's see. The ocean, the sun is right here. I'm mindful of strangers, so people that don't want to be videoed, so I don't always know what to do when I'm at this location, but oh, that guy's always here. So I'm going to start and we'll see what happens, right? Because if I think about it too much, I'll never start because I've got other stuff that I need to get done. And, I just start. So that's how it is. And I welcome you. This is amazing. This book has been so amazing and life transformative. Evelyn Underhill wrote this in 1910. That's why I'm reading it. That's not why, but that's why it's free to read. Copyright free. I'll just start. I have a playlist, so you can go to the beginning or just trust that you got to this video for a reason and start here and go back to some of the other videos or all of them or whatever. I'm not invested. I'm just like, aye, Captain. I'm here to do my duty because of love, because I know this will equip whoever comes to it, whoever it gets to. So for sure, you can pray that it gets to the right people. All right, let's go. So we're on the chapter called The Illumination of the Self. And so we're in the section of the book called The Mystic Way. And so we talked about the purification of the self was the last chapter. Now we're in the illumination of the self. And before that was the awakening of the self. So you awake and then you're purified. That purification took a long time, didn't it? If you've been here with me. That was a long chapter. And then that's how it feels in our life, right? Now we're in the illumination of the self. So let's get on it, right? I see it raining in a distance. You guys ought to see this because nature is part of this, right? I can't zoom in because I'm not on an app that switches my camera view. Let's see if I can see what you're seeing is right over there. There's rain clouds and there's rain coming down. It's been raining here, but it's super sunny right now. Just imagine that you were getting this view right now. I'll do my best. Let's put it down here for a little bit. I don't want you to be without it, but it's just like, because I can't. Anyway, whatever. I don't want to complain. So I invite you not to. Last time I was putting my bookmark in front. Let me just see what the angle is on this. I have to check. Okay, you're getting the ocean and something. And I just don't think you're really seeing who these people are, so that's fine. I just don't know how much of the... Okay. Because the sun's glaring on them. Okay, so let's do that for as long as we can. So Evelyn Underhill was writing, the soul says, tell me what can be this thing of delight that merely by its memory touches and moves me with such sweetness and violence that I am drawn out of myself and carried away. I know not how. I am suddenly renewed. I am changed. I am plunged into an ineffable peace. My mind is full of gladness. All my past wretchedness and pain is forgot. My soul exults. My intellect is illuminated. My heart is afire. My desires have become kindly and gentle. I know not where I am, because my love has embraced me. Also because my love has embraced me, I seem to have become possessed of something, and I know not what it is, but I try to keep it, that I may never lose it. My soul strives in gladness, that she may not be separated from that which she desires to hold fast forever. As if she had found in it the goal of all her desires, she exults in a sovereign and ineffable manner, seeking not, desiring not, but to rest in this. In this, then, is this, then, my beloved? Tell me, that I may know him, and that if he come again, I may entreat him to leave me not, but to stay with me forever. All right, and so I was saying that I don't know when this was written. I didn't look up Saint Bernard. That's by Saint Bernard in the... No, wait, this is from the Theologica Germanica, right? But Mozart says this same exact thing in The Marriage of Figaro. He says, and it's in Italian, so it's translated. This is as I can remember a translation. Tell me what love is. What can it be? What is this burning, yearning in me? Who holds the secret? Who holds the key? I long for something. What can it be? By day it haunts me by night. This tender torment tinged with delight, right? And so it's like, it's like, I know what I was going to say, what I said before, and I don't know if I was clear about it, is, I'm a psychologist for the past 20 plus years, so sometimes I will make comments because I have experience in mysticism and as a psychologist. I'm a doctor, Dr. Cheryl Meyer, in my day job. So, here. Okay, this is like, I'm going to put sometimes my bookmark if someone like comes close so that, oops, they're not recognized. But anyway, no, I don't know if it's getting the ocean or what. All right. So I was saying that my friend Charlie Mackesy, I was in his car and he was playing cassette tapes of that, and I could just hear it in Italian. My soul knew what it was, and I did not know. And I was like, what is the name of the song? And I wrote it down, and, I looked up I don't know how many years later I found it in English because I recognized it again. It's in the movie Pride and Prejudice as well. And so anyway. Man says, it is indeed thy beloved who visits thee, but he comes in an invisible shape. He comes disguised, he comes incomprehensibly. He comes to touch thee, not to be seen of thee, to arouse thee, not to be comprehended of thee. He comes not to give himself wholly, but to be tasted by thee, not to fulfill thy desire, but to lead upwards thy affection. He gives a foretaste of his delights, brings not the plenitude of a perfect satisfaction, and the earnest of thy betrothal consists chiefly in this. He who shall afterwards give himself to be seen, possessed. Here, I'll do this. Hold on. All right. I don't know what's that blocking. I'll just flip it to me for now. All right. I love people, and I want them to have privacy. I think my screen was getting hot anyway. All right. I mean, I love you guys. I want you guys to see the sun setting over the ocean. It's pretty awesome. But you can see that anywhere else as well. All right. So, beloved, he comes to touch thee, not to be seen of thee, to arouse thee, not to be comprehended of thee. He comes not to give himself wholly, but to be tasted by thee, not to fulfill thy desire, but to lead upwards thy affection. He gives a foretaste of his delights, brings not the plenitude of a perfect satisfaction, and the earnest of thy betrothal consists chiefly in this, that he who shall afterwards give himself to be seen and possessed by thee perpetually, now permits himself to be sometimes tasted, that thou mayest learn how sweet he is. This shall console thee for his absence, and the savour of this gift shall keep thee from all despair. The real distinction between the illuminative and the unitive life is that in illumination, the individuality of the subject, however profound his spiritual consciousness, the real distinction between the illuminative and the unitive life, the oneness, because you can have illumination, and she talks about how you think you're in the union, but you're not. You're just having illumination in that moment, like was just being described. I can't really see what's on my screen because it went dim a little bit. Anyway, I'll just keep reading. The real distinction between the illuminative and the unitive life is that in illumination, the individuality of the subject, however profound his spiritual consciousness, however close his communion with the infinite, remains separate and intact. His heightened apprehension of reality governs rather than obliterates the rest of his life, and may even increase his power of dealing adequately with the accidents of normal existence. Thus, Brother Lawrence found that his acute sense of reality, his apprehension of the presence of God, and the resulting detachment and consciousness of liberty in regard to mundane things, upheld and assisted him in the most unlikely tasks. As, for instance, when he was sent into Burgundy to buy wine for his convent, quote, which was a very unwelcome task to him because he had no turn for business and because he was lame and could not go about the boat. I remember this, but by rolling himself over the casks. That, however, he gave himself no uneasiness about, nor about the purchase of the wine. That he said to God, it was his business he was about, and that he afterwards found it very well performed. So likewise in his business in the kitchen, to which he had naturally a great aversion. Wow. I understand that aversion. But he says, he feels the same presence. I remember reading it, practicing the presence of God, whether he's in the kitchen or at prayers, he's still practicing presence, being really present with God. So it doesn't matter if you're waiting in a line, at a grocery store or at a red light or waiting, for this video to start or whatever. It's just practice presence, practice being really present, and it won't matter. You just don't get in that complaining spirit, because then it just goes south. All goes south. I know that, because then you're in egotism and you're in mind. The mind's like, I have to get things done, If I was in that mindset, I would never make any of these videos. I can tell you for sure they wouldn't have gotten made, because I have plenty that needs to get done. And so do you, I'm sure. But right now we're engaged in something else. So be present with it. I invite you. As I'm choosing to, I was like, all right, sometimes when I go off, it's like, oh wait, I'm not thinking about all the things that are important, or whatever else, my bodily appetites, like food, drink, whatever. Just be present and accept the gift that's in front of you. This is a gift. It's coming to me and to you, and through me to you, and through Evelyn Underhill to you, and through all these other mystics and saints. These are hard-won. They're hard-won wisdom and hard-won truths. They do not come easily or lightly. Some of these saints spent their whole life getting to that one truth that was quoted by Brother Lawrence right now. So understand the preciousness of these, and that we get to hear a lot of them is just, I don't want it to turn into spiritual gluttony, But I was led here tonight, so I'm just like, I wasn't planning on this. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I need to read that, and then it's like, nope, get out of that mindset. Just be present. You don't have to look for any answers. Just be present and know that this was brought to you as a gift, I know that. I just know that because I know the nature of how long it takes for me to upload videos and how few people are on that channel and how I've got no money from it or any. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, it's like if I was going to be caught up in that would have happened 3 years ago when I started, 3.5 years ago or so. I mean, I made a few videos before that, but it's enough about me. I don't care. I'm not invested. Let's go back to see that he said to God it was his business he was about, and that he afterwards found it very well performed, ellipsis. So likewise in his business in the kitchen, to which he had naturally a great aversion. The mind, concentrated upon a higher object of interest, is undistracted by its own likes and dislikes, and performs efficiently the work that is given it to do. Where it does not do so, then the normal makeup of the subject, rather than its mystical proclivities, must be blamed. St. Catherine of Genoa found in this divine companionship the power which made her hospital a success. Oh, I didn't know. Okay, St. Catherine of Genoa found in this divine companionship the power which made her hospital a success. St. Teresa was an admirable housewife, and declared that she found her God very easily amongst the pots and pans. I think she's talking about St. Teresa of Avila. I don't know what she meant by a housewife, unless it's a different St. Teresa. It's not St. Teresa of Calcutta, because that was after this book. Appearances notwithstanding, Mary would probably have been a better cook than Martha, had circumstances forced on her this form of activity. So Mary sat at Jesus' feet, and Martha was busy making the dinner, and Martha goes up to Jesus and says, hey, tell Mary to get up and help me with dinner. And anyway, that's the story. You can look it up. But Jesus says, Mary has chosen the better thing. In that moment, that was the better thing, and it will not be taken from her. Little did Martha know that she didn't know Jesus was going to die like 2 years later or 1 year later, or really soon after that. I think it was really soon after that. I'm not sure because I don't know the timeline. I just know that Jesus died very soon after Lazarus was raised, and Lazarus was Mary and Martha's brother. So anyway, in persons of feeble or diffuse intelligence, however, this deep absorption in the sense of divine reality may easily degenerate into monoideism. Then the, quote, black slide, quote, end quote, of illumination, a selfish preoccupation with transcendental joys. The spiritual gluttony. Wow, I didn't know that was going to be on. That's on the next page. I started on this other page, you guys. That's why I trust sometimes that I'm saying something for a reason, even though it sounds dumb to me. Sometimes I just don't judge it. Okay, so he's talking about spiritual gluttony condemned by St. John of the Cross. That comes out, right? Okay, spiritual gluttony is really an important thing to understand, because you think you're being spiritual and you keep chasing all these spiritual highs. And I went on pilgrimages. I've been to Jerusalem and Ephesus and the island of Patmos and all these places, and I do understand that I could have been called there on spiritual pilgrimage. But when you're going and you keep going to places because the closeness that you experienced with God was so high that you just want to keep chasing those highs, then it's like when he asked God and he multiplied the fish and the bread, the people kept coming back because they wanted their bellies full. And he was teaching them, don't come for that. Don't come for me. Come for me. Come for Jesus. Come for God. Come for the divine love. Come, you'll see. We'll see. I trust that she'll explain it. I'll just say that much. She said, okay, so then the black side, the dark side of illumination is this selfish preoccupation with transcendental joys, the spiritual gluttony condemned by St. John of the Cross. It comes out, right? Quote, I made many mistakes, says Madame Guyon, pathetically, quote, through allowing myself to be too much taken up by my interior joys. I used to sit in a corner and work, but I could hardly do anything because the strength of this attraction made me let the work fall out of my hands. I spent, it's like if she's, weaving or whatever, like making needlework or whatever her work was. I spent hours in this very way without being able to open my eyes or to know what was happening to me, so simply, so peacefully, so gently, that sometimes I said to myself, can heaven itself be more peaceful than I? Oh, I love that feeling. I love that, but anyway. And we're not saying we don't love it. The people loved when they were really hungry and they were out in the wilderness and they got food, That's why he gave it to them, because he said, they've been out here a long time, trusting and going away from the city, and they don't have food, so how shall we feed them, right? And then he broke it was 5 fish and 2, he did it many times, but one of the ones that's recorded is 5 fish and 2 loaves. And he thanked God for them and then broke them and passed them out. And someone, I was reading a commentary from the 1000s, and it was it's Blessed Theophylact from the 1000s. He was the Archbishop of Bulgaria. And he said that some people, you can take this in different ways. Some people take the 5 fish to be like our flesh, to be like the 5 senses. And I can't remember what the two bread are. Here, no one's here for a little bit. So I can't at all see what you're seeing. I hope it's something. If it's not, then I apologize. I can't see it if you're just seeing the ground or the gates or the sky or the ocean. So I'll just put it there for a little bit. Okay, so she said so can heaven itself be more peaceful than I? Here we see Madame Guyon basking like a pious tabby cat in the beams of uncreated light, and already leaning to the extravagances of quietism, with its dangerous, quote, double character of passivity and beatitude. Oh, okay, so quietism was, what's it called? It's a heresy that was back then, a heresy where, you feel this passivity and the beatitude. That's why she's saying it's dangerous, and it's different from actually being present with divine love. She'll explain. The heroic aspect of the mystic vocation is wholly in abeyance. The, quote, triumphing spiritual life, which her peculiar psychic makeup permitted her to receive, has been treated as a source of personal and placid satisfactions, not as a wellspring whence new vitality might be drawn for great and self-giving activities. It has been claimed by the early biographers of St. Catherine of Genoa that she passed in the crisis of her conversion directly through the purgation to the unitive life, and never exhibited the characteristics of the illuminative way. This has been effectually disproved by the Baron von Hugel, though he too is inclined in her case to reject the usual sequence of the mystic states. Yet the description of Catherine's condition after her 4 great penitential years were ended, as given in chapter VI of the Vita e Dottrina, is an almost perfect picture of healthy illumination of the inward or immanent type, and may fruitfully be compared with the passage which I have quoted from Madame Guyon's life. No doubt there were hours in which St. Catherine's experience, as it were, ran ahead, and she felt herself not merely lit up by the indwelling light, but temporarily merged in it. These moments are responsible for such passages as the beautiful fragment in chapter 5, which does, when taken alone, seem to describe the true unitive state. Quote, sometimes, she said, I do not see or feel myself to have either soul, body, heart, will, or taste, or any other thing except pure love. End quote. Her normal condition of consciousness, however, was clearly not yet that which Julian of Norwich calls being one with bliss, but rather an intense and continuous communion with an objective reality which she still felt to be distinct from herself. Quote, after the aforesaid 4 years, says the next chapter of the Vita, there was given unto her a purified mind, free and filled with God, insomuch that no other thing could enter into it. Thus, when she heard sermons or mass, so much was she absorbed in her interior feelings that she neither heard nor saw that which was said or done without, but within, in the sweet divine light, she saw and heard other things, being wholly absorbed by their interior light. And it was not in her power to act otherwise. Catherine, then, is still a spectator of the Absolute, does not feel herself to be one with it. Quote, and it is a marvelous thing that with so great an interior recollection, the Lord never permitted her to go beyond control, but when she was needed, she always came to herself, so that she was able to reply that which was asked of her, and the Lord so guided her that none could complain of her. And she had her mind so filled by love divine, that conversation became hard to her, and by this continuous taste and sense of God, several times she was so greatly transported that she was forced to hide herself, that she might not be seen. It is clear, however, that Catherine herself was aware of the transitory and imperfect nature of this intensely joyous state. Her growing transcendental self, unsatisfied with the sunshine of the illuminative way, the enjoyment of the riches of God, already aspired to union with the divine. With her, as with all truly heroic souls, it was love for love, not love for joy. Quote, she cried to God because he gave her so many consolations. Non voglio quello che esse date, ma sol voglio te o dolce amor. Oh, good. She translated it for us. Thank the maker, right? I'm sorry about my chopping up Italian. Italiano. I only know vino rosso, per favore. Grazie, prego. I won't say what that is. If you know Italian, you know why I know that. Una stanza, per favore. That's when I traveled. I had to get one room, please. I'll say that. Grazie, prego. Anyway, it says, I desire not which comes forth from thee, but only I desire thee, O sweetest love. I'll read it again. I desire not that which comes from thee, but only I desire thee, O sweetest love. And love has a capital L, right? All right, so okay, so she quotes that the beginning of again, which says, I desire not that which comes from thee. That's great, because I just read it twice anyway, so she read it that beginning again. When the crescent soul has come to this, the illuminative way is nearly at an end. It has seen the goal, quote, that country which is no mere vision, but a home, and it is set upon the forward march. So Gertrude Moore, this woman named Gertrude Moore, quote, no knowledge which we can here have of thee can satisfy my soul seeking and longing without ceasing after thee. Ellipsis. Alas, my Lord God, what is all thou canst give to a loving soul which sigheth and panteth after thee alone, and esteemeth all things as dung that she may gain thee? What is all, I say, whilst thou givest not thyself? Who art that one thing which is only necessary, and which alone can satisfy our souls? Was it any comfort to Saint Mary Magdalene, when she sought thee, to find two angels which presented themselves instead of thee. Verily, I cannot think it was any joy unto her, for that soul that hath set her whole love and desire on thee can never find any true satisfaction, but only in thee. God is so beautiful. If you ever sit with Mary Magdalene and meditate on that passage, you'll get that same thing that she got. What is the nature of this mysterious mystic illumination, apart from the message it transmits? What is the form which it most usually assumes in the consciousness of the self? The illuminatives, one and all, seem to assure us that its apparently symbolic name is a realistic one, that it appears to them as a kind of radiance, a flooding of the personality with new light. A new sun rises above the horizon and transfigures their twilight world. Over and over again they return to light imagery in this connection. Frequently, as in the case of their first conversion, they report an actual and overpowering consciousness of radiant light, ineffable in its splendor, as an accompaniment of their inward adjustment. Sopra omne lingua amor, bonta senza figura, lume fior de misura, resplende nel mio cor. Oh, thank God. She translated again. It says, love above all language, goodness unimagined, light without measure, shines in my heart. And that's Jacopon de Todi. Lauda. It's from a thing called Lauda. Love above all language, goodness unimagined, light without measure, shines in my heart. Sang Jacopon de Todi. Light rare and untellable, says Whitman. The flowing light of the Godhead, says Mathilde of Magdeburg, trying to describe what it was that made the difference between her universe and that of normal men. Lux vivens dicit, says Hildegard, of her revelations, which she described as appearing in a special light more brilliant than the brightness around the sun. All right, I'll go back to that, because what's coming to me right now is I sang one of my friends. I was friends with this musician named Elliott Smith, and I sang one of his songs. I sang a cover because I guess you can until they tell you not to, or hopefully his family, Elliot's passed away, gets money from it. I'm not monetized on YouTube, so I put it there. But it goes, because your candle burns too bright. Well, I almost forgot it was twilight. I can't sing it, I'll start crying. It reminds me so much of him and the deeper meaning in that song, but it's like, I just read a Plato quote this morning that said, it said, no, I'm quoting it indirectly, it's not an exact quote right now, but it said that foolish people, the ignorant people, will want to remain ignorant, and they don't want to hear you teaching them the truth. And then they went on to go and persecute you or something like that afterwards. It said only a few will come to this real understanding of truth. The masses will never come to it. I don't think I put it on Twitter because I didn't want to be negative. I didn't like that last part, but I liked that it came to me because it helped me understand why I'm sometimes attacked or whatever. But, I don't like dwelling on that, because what you dwell on grows. So, but anyway, because your candle burns too bright. That's what it's saying. It's like, because that's Elliott Smith's lyrics, so I'm quoting from him. It's like, because it's saying that, like, some people don't like your candle burning really bright, but God, divine love, is the source of that, and so they're turned away from divine love if they want more of that, of the sun shining so brightly and reflecting on the ocean, then they'll be attracted to it. The right people will be attracted to it. Someone just wrote that in a comment that I read right before this. And I was getting that impression this morning because I read that Plato quote before I read the comment. Anyway, we can be on the same wavelength of light, right? The light spectrum. All right, so Lux vivens deceit, I think that's Latin, says Hildegard of her revelations, which she described as appearing in a special light more brilliant than the brightness round the sun. It is an infused brightness, says Saint Teresa, a light which knows no nights, but rather, as it is always light, nothing ever disturbs it. Wow. I didn't read that line yet. I mean, I've read Saint Teresa of Avila, but I stopped right there to tell you about Eliot's line, right? Because I got an impression to do so. But, he's saying, because your candle burns so bright, the people that feel your light, it's like they forget that we're in the shadow of darkness right now. I almost forgot it was twilight here. We're in the twilight of the world. Or, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, Your rod and your staff, they comfort you. Now, St. John of the Cross talks about the staff. One meaning of it is the cross. So take up your cross every day. And it comforts you because you learn how to be detached from everything. And the sun, God is the source. Like the sun is a resource, right? And so when people try to cut you off from the source, or you feel cut off, like, oh, look at my bank account. It's like, my bank account is just a resource, My job is a resource. Sources come through to me. They come and they go, or whatever. Divine love is always the source that will get you through so many things in life. My uncle taught me that. That was a hard-won grace and a hard-won truth that he got, that he gave to me, that helps me in so many areas of my life, where I was like, oh, wait, I thought that, getting all these subscribers or whatever was going to be my source. And it's like, no, that's not my source. That's just a resource. There's the little RE source in front of it. God, divine love is the source. And once you get those ordered, your life, it gets so much more at ease and in love, and you get your priorities get set back in order in the correct way. Because it's like lots of people have offered, someone was offering me a product right now to sponsor, and I was just like, nah, and lots of people have said, hey, we'll grow your channel, and I know one of my friends has 40,000 followers or something out of nowhere. I won't say, I don't know, maybe he grew it organically, but and it's like, so there's always that kind of opportunity, but I think it's more fun to just be adventurous and be like, all right, well, I hope I'm following your business plan, divine love, it's more fun because you're not trying to control it, I'm not saying don't be diligent. I'm not saying don't hire marketing people, because there's a time for that. So I wait for that calling if that's what I'm supposed to do. I keep meeting, really excellent marketing people. So we'll see. Because how are people going to know, that you have Wonder Bread unless you advertise? We'll see. I get jokes all the time about it from divine love in my heart, like showing up in my world around me. So whatever. Anyway, go back. So she says, Saint Teresa of Avila. Anyway, she says, it is an infused brightness, says Saint Teresa, a light which knows no night, but rather, as it is always light, nothing ever disturbs it. Right? And so, and that's in the life of Saint Teresa. It says Vida, so I'm like, that means life. There's a Smiths song, right? And there's a part of it that goes, there's a light and it never goes out. And then it goes like, take me out tonight. Take me anywhere. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. It says something like, because I haven't got one. It's about being detached, actually. But you can go into depression if you don't go into the high state of of detachment. If, Eliot had a song, he wrote it, and it came out after his death, but my friend John Bryan, well, he was my friend at the time, was telling me about it. He was saying Eliot had this song called Suicide Machine, and, I laugh now because he's talking about dying over and over again. This is to face death all the time, But if you don't get it in the right vehicle or whatever, if you're in the wrong state of consciousness, then you feel suicidal, and your detachment goes away. You're just complaining, and you're back in egotism and attached to your mind and attached to all the woes, tell me your woes. I'm not laughing about that. It's sad, but so I bet they know Italian. They look at Italiano. Okay, so it says de subito parve giorno a giorne esser agi unto. Let's see if she translated. Maybe she'll translate for the rest of the book. Maybe if I have the new version in the back, I ought to have it open so I can see, because in her new version, maybe they put all the translations. It was like the 19th edition or something. So it says, an appeal to all who doubt. I'm not sure if that's... No, sorry, that's something else that's coming up. So I don't know what that says. But anyway, his last words in the effort to describe the soul's apprehension of the being of God. So if you speak Italiano, right here it is. Here's the sentence that we don't know. Write that in the comments for us, in English for us, please. Because then it will go to everybody else in their other languages. It really seems as though the mystic's attainment of new levels of consciousness did bring with it the power of perceiving a splendor always there, but beyond the narrow range of our poor sight, to which it is only a luminous darkness. At the best, quote, an eternal nature, or the kingdom of heaven, said Law. This person's last name is Law. Materiality stands in life and light. The cumulative testimony on this point is such as would be held to prove in any other department of knowledge that there is indeed an actual light, rare, untellable, quote, lighting the very light and awaiting the recognition of men. Well, we know this in Genesis, as this light's just shining on my face, right? We know this in Genesis because God says in the beginning there was light, right? There was light. And he hadn't made the sun yet. So go figure. What does that mean? In the beginning, there was light. And John, I love saying John the beloved, right? He's the beloved. He got to put his head on Jesus's chest, right? On his heart right before the crucifixion. It was, some say it was Jesus's cousin, John the Baptist was, and John the beloved. But I won't get into that. But he says, Jesus is the light. In the beginning was the light and the Word and the light of life. This is John 1. He's saying that Jesus was that light. Just like Jesus said it himself, I am the light of the world. But he also said, you are the light of the world. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Consider the accent of realism with which St. Augustine speaks in the most celebrated passage of the Confessions, where we seem to see a born psychologist. No. So I'm not comparing myself to St. Augustine and his Confessions, right? Where we seem to see a born psychologist desperately struggling by means of negations to describe an intensely positive state. Quote, I entered into the secret closet of my soul, led by thee, and this I could do because thou wast my helper. I entered and beheld with the mysterious eye of my soul the light that never changes. Above the eye of my soul, above my intelligence, It was not the common light which all flesh can see, nor was it greater yet of the same kind, as if the light of day were to glow brighter and brighter and flood all space. It was not like this, but different, altogether different from all such things, nor was it above my intelligence in the same way as oil is above water or heaven above earth, but it was higher because it made me, and I was lower because made by it. He who knoweth the truth knoweth that light, and who knoweth it knoweth eternity. Love knoweth it. End quote. So it's kind of like the mystics say, you are like one drop of ocean, but if that one drop of ocean goes into the ocean, there's the ocean, right? Then it's like you feel like you're one with the ocean, but you're not. You are one with the ocean, but you're not the ocean. You're not the divine love. You're not the creator. This is what everyone mistakes. They're like, oh, there's no God. It's like, what? I don't understand sometimes. I look around and I'm like, what did you just say? What are you talking about? What is this then? Because I'm such in that understanding, but sometimes my own mind can doubt, I'm not saying I'm always without doubt, but your mind, we're so inundated, we're in this world that we think, oh, it just happened, or it's an accident, or whatever, we can make up all sorts of things. It's like if people believed that, slavery just ended, and it's like, no, people stood up against it, and the consciousness was changed. The consciousness of treating people like objects has begun to change, and that was part of it, The guy that wrote Amazing Grace stopped slavery on his boat. He was carting slaves, I heard. I read it the other day. And he got a sudden illumination. Maybe I read it in here. I think I did. So you read it too if you're with me. All right, so that's the end of that quote. That's awesome. Here, as in the case of St. Teresa, St. Catherine of Genoa, and Jacopin da Todi, we have a characteristically eminental description of the illuminated state, the self by the process which mystics call introversion, the deliberate turning inwards of its attention, its cognitive powers, discerns reality within the heart, the rippling tide of love which flows secretly from God into the soul and draws it mightily back into its source. So I was taught too, you can't force this grace. You can't, it's like, I was like, oh, I kept getting that state of oneness. And so I was like, I better do this one thing that caused that. It's just like if you're a baseball player and you've practiced your whole life baseball, it's not because you're wearing your cap this way that you got that home run. It's all of the practice, you were in the Zen state, you were in the zone, and you were relaxed and you were surrendered, and you let your ability and divine love flow through you to be excellent, And so, but if you keep thinking, oh, if I wear this cap and I don't wash it and I wear it this way and blah, 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 that's what we can do to try to force grace. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You can't force divine love. You got to just be with what is, accept what is. But also that doesn't mean don't ever practice baseball and be like, oh, well, I didn't have my lucky cap, so I'm not going to do my best tonight. No, keep practicing. I keep practicing guitar and I get better, But okay, so she's saying the rippling tide of love which flows secretly from God into the soul and draws it mightily back into its source. But the opposite or transcendental tendency, the splendid cosmic vision of infinity exterior to the subject, the expansive, outgoing movement towards the divine light. Che visible fosse, lo creator aquella creatura, ciò solo in lui vedere ha la sua pace. Suapace. Let's see what she says. Let's see, hopefully she... Which makes visible the creator. Thank the maker. I'm so thankful because the translations weren't before this very often. which makes visible the Creator to that creature who only in beholding him finds its peace. Pause. Pause. I said passe, but I didn't know. I don't even know the word for peace in Italiano. Anyway. Which makes visible the Creator to that creature who only in beholding him, with a capital H, finds its peace. And St. John of the Cross says it this way. He says, desire to possess nothing. Because when you desire to possess nothing, you see that you possess everything in divine love, in God. You don't see it immediately, maybe, from me just saying these words, but you get to have these experiences, let's see. So, a divine light, the Creator, finds its peace. The strange, formless absorption in the divine dark to which the soul is destined to ascend. These modes of perception are equally characteristic of the illuminative way. As in conversion, so here, reality may be apprehended in either transcendent or immanent, positive or negative terms. It is both near and far, and for some selves, that which is far is easiest to find. To a certain type of mind, the veritable practice of the presence of God is not the intimate and adorable companionship of the inward light, but the awestruck contemplation of the Absolute, the, quote, naked Godhead, end quote, source and origin of all that is. It is an ascent to the supernal plane of perception where, quote, without veils, in themselves and in their changelessness, the mysteries of theology appear in the midst of the luminous darkness of a silence which is full of profound teaching. A marvelous darkness which shines with rays of splendor, and which, invisible and intangible, inundates with its fires the dazzled and sanctified soul. With such an experience of eternity, such a vision of the triune, all-including Absolute, which binds the universe with love, Dante ends his divine comedy, and the mystic joy with which its memory fills him is his guarantee that he has really seen the inviolate rose, the flaming heart of things. Wow, I forgot that there's a rose in that. I didn't know. Oh, look. I'm wearing a rose. Oops. Yeah, it says, new beginnings is now. Wait. The best time for new beginnings is now. Thank the maker. It says something really pretty on the back, too. There's a giant rose on the back of my shirt, but I don't know what it says. I can't remember. I didn't look at it when I put it on today. But I kept asking Divine Love, God, why I was seeing roses all the time. And for me, for that moment, for a while, I was getting rise, open your soul eyes, R-O-S-E. Rise up with Christ, rise to this higher state of being. Open your soul eyes, stop looking with these eyes. I had to block certain people, and look, I have this. I don't need to say why I did, but if I couldn't, it's just like if you give up social media or something like that, or you give up TV or something, so that you just leave, that temptation, if you will, out of your mind to stop looking with these eyes, because it's too painful to keep getting pulled in and then try to pull yourself out and then get pulled in again. It's just until you can learn how to be detached and sober in all things, right? So that he has really seen the inviolate rose, the flaming heart of things. Oh, wow. Well, so let's see. Now she quotes this long quote from Dionysius the Areopagite. I'm going to show it right here. Like, you can also take a screenshot these days and put it in a translator. You can copy it from your picture, put it in a translator, and get the English, and just give that back to us. If I watch this video and I see this part, then I'll do it. But I often don't watch these because I'm reading it right now for us. But abandonment, I don't know, to grace. I'm not going to try to do this one. Something profound, sustainus accidenti, or la costume, quasi conflati. Anyway, the forma universal, we know that, universal form. The quest, nodo, credo. I took a couple years of Spanish. Perch de largo, there's a lake. Descend the quest, and then there's an ellipsis. O quanto, o corte al dire. Anyway. And then there's the last bit of it. It's on the next page. I'm sure she'll describe some of it to us. In Dante, the transcendent and impersonal aspect of illumination is seen in its most exalted form. It seems at first sight almost impossible to find room within the same system for this expansive vision of the undifferentiated light, and such intimate and personal apprehensions of deity as Lady Julian's conversations with her courteous and dear-worthy lord. Now, the revelations of Julian of Norwich are so beautiful. St. Catherine's companionship with love divine, yet all these are really reports of the same psychological state, describe the attainment of the same grade of reality. In a wonderful passage unique in the literature of mysticism, Angela of Foligno has reported the lucid vision in which she perceived this truth, the twofold apprehension of an absolute at once humble and omnipotent. All-powerful is omnipotent. Personal and transcendent, the unimaginable synthesis of unspeakable power and deep humility. It's such an amazing combination. It's what Jesus was. I asked him the other day to teach me this. Because it says the righteous are as bold as a lion. And then Jesus says, come all to me, all of you to me who are weak, who are weary and heavy laden, for I am lowly and gentle in spirit. There's a dolphin or a whale out there. I just saw it blow from the blowhole. Okay, it's straight out. I don't know if it'll come out again. It's straight in the middle of where my camera is pointed. Anyway, something just blew out. Maybe it was a dolphin. If I see a giant whale, believe me, I'll turn this around, but we're almost out of time. Usually I would, but what we're into is so important. So, okay, so Jesus is both powerful and humble and meek, He said, blessed are the meek, they shall inherit the earth. You're not stepping over the earth, but the eyes of my soul were open, and I beheld the plenitude of God, whereby I did comprehend the whole world, both here and beyond the sea, and the abyss, and all things else. And therein did I behold naught save the divine power in a manner assuredly indescribable, so that through excess of marveling the soul cried with a loud voice, saying, this whole world is full of God. Wherefore did I now comprehend that the world is but a small thing. I saw moreover, that the power of God was above all things, and that the whole world was filled with it. Then he said unto me, I have shown thee something of my power, the which I did so well understand, that it enabled me better to understand all other things. He said also, quote, I have made thee to see something of my power. Behold now, and see my humility. Then I was given so deep an insight into the humility of God towards man and all other things, that when my soul remembered his unspeakable power and comprehended his deep humility, it marveled greatly and did esteem itself to be nothing at all. It must never be forgotten that all apparently one-sided descriptions of illumination, all experiences of it, are governed by temperament. Quote, that light, whose smile kindles the universe, is ever the same, but the self through whom it passes, and by whom we must receive its report, has already submitted to the molding influences of environment and heredity, church and state. The very language of which that self avails itself in its struggle for expression links it with 100 philosophies and creeds. The response which it makes to divine love, she called it divine love here, will be the same in type as the response which its nature would make to earthly love, but raised to the nth degree. We, receiving the revelation, receive with it all those elements which the subject has contributed in spite of itself. Hence, the apprehension of divine reality, with a capital D and R, may take almost any form from the metaphysical ecstasies which we find in Dionysius, and to a less degree in St. Augustine, to the simple, almost common-sense statements of Brother Lawrence and lovely intimacies of Julian of Norwich, or Matilda Magdeburg. Sometimes so rich and varied does the nature of the great mystic tend to be. The exalted and impersonal language of the Dionysian theology goes, with no sense of incongruity, side by side with homely parallels drawn from the most sweet and common incidents of daily life. Suso, in whom illumination and purgation existed side by side for 16 years, oh my God, please, alternately obtaining possession of the mental field, and whose oscillations between the harshest mortification and the most ecstatic pleasure states were exceptionally violent and swift, is a characteristic instance of such an attitude of mind. His illumination was largely of the intimate and eminental type, but it was not without the touches of mystical transcendence which break out with sudden splendor side by side with those tender and charming passages in which the servitor of the eternal wisdom tries to tell his love. All right, I stopped there. Usually I stop on the left side of the page so I can read the first paragraph so I remember where to start. Plus, it's been an hour. Everybody's here for sunset now. There's someone that just came up with their surfboard. Anyway, I wish you so much love. I appreciate your presence. Like and share and comment, because that grows this so it goes to other people. I wish you so much love.